everyone. It's Connie Stewart with SimplySimpleStamping.com. I'm so glad you guys could join me today for another Tuesday tip video. I have got a fantastic interactive card to share with you today. This is a simple little flap card. Gotten very creative with the measurements. I think you're going to really enjoy this. And if you have followed the flashcard series, this card also falls into the flashcard category as well. I'm excited to share these with you. Let's head over to the stamping table and I'll show you my interactive card.
You're going to love this interactive card because I made it with so few supplies. It is great. This actually falls into the flashcard series. I've got tips and tricks to share with you. We are going to start with our I Like You So You Get a Card interactive card. You don't need a lot of supplies, and you're going to love this. We're going to start with 2 pieces of Night of Navy. These are both 4 1/4 by 5 1/2. So basically, it was just a half sheet of cardstock that I cut in half. As I said, this falls into the flashcard series. If you're not familiar with flashcards, I'll put the link up there in the corner for you. This is a system that I have that when you have these pieces cut and ready, you can make just about any card in a flash. I have a piece that is 2 3/4 by 4 1/4 in basic gray. And then the last thing I need are 2 pieces of basic white. This is my flashcard piece, 2 1/2 by 4 inches, so it'll layer there. And then this is for the inside of my card. And this is a 4 by 5 1/4. We're also going to need some basic white baker's twine. All right, the first thing I want to teach you is how I created my flap. I'm going to take just one piece of my Night of Navy, and what I want to do is I want to take 3/4 of an inch off of one side, and then we're going to rotate it around, and we're going to take 3/4 of an inch off the other side. So these 2 pieces that you have left over, we need the longest one, all right? And what we want to do is we want to adhere this to the center of that piece that we just cut. So I'm going to just put a couple strips of adhesive there. You want to line up the edge with the edge of that cardstock. So yeah, you are going to have definitely some length left over there on the flap. For this next step, I'm going to bring in my bone folder. And what I want to do, I'm just laying this, okay? No adhesive here. This is just so we can create the flap. And so you can see how I'm just kind of lining that up in my paper. And then what I'm going to do is I'm just going to come right over here to the left. Can you see right there on the left side there of my card? And fold that over. And that is where we're going to add our flap. So let's go ahead and do this, but you know what? I want to get some of this bulk cut out of here. No one's going to see it, so I just need a little bit. So with that flap side down, I'm going to just put plenty of adhesive here on that little tab. I'm going to fold it over, and it's going to go right up against the edge of my cardstock. Again, I just want to center up this Night of Navy in my other piece of Night of Navy. I tend to not press anything down until I'm sure I'm good and centered. And I am, so I'm going to give that a press. Now we're going to be hiding that. Remember, we have that piece of basic white that's going to go inside here. So we're going to be able to hide that. But in the meantime, we're going to do some stamping. My first card is going to feature Stamped with Love. This was one of my favorite sets. There's just something great about sending a card. I'm going to come in with a Memento black ink pad. I'm going to ink up my little letter and pen, and I'm going to stamp that over here on the bottom right of my basic white cardstock. Next, I'm going to stamp I Like You. And we're going to stamp this at a bit of an angle. We love stamping at an angle because then we don't have to worry about getting it straight. And then the fun sentiment. I like you, so you get a card. And what we want to do with this, again, at an angle, I'm going to stamp it right inside my letter. Now I'll come in with a real red ink pad, and in this stamp set is this absolutely adorable and absolutely tiny little heart. I'm going to add just a couple, 2 or 3 little hearts here around the I Like You. And then the last place I want to add one is in the stamp. We're going to put a little heart right inside there. I wanted to do a little coloring as if my card were red. So I'm going to use a real red Stampin' Write marker. You could also use your Stampin' Blends, whichever you prefer. But guys, I am simply just going to color in all of the back of this little card. And then I want to get the outer edge of my postage stamp. Now that pen just cannot remain white, so let's go ahead and color our pen in red as well. By the way, if you wanted to change it up, you could make the pen Knight of Navy. You could make the stamp heart Knight of Navy. Feel free to get creative. We are now going to adhere this on to our basic gray cardstock. It'll go just right there in the middle. Now I'll bring in my card and let me show you what I want to do. I don't want to add this right in the middle. I'm actually going to bring it up just a little bit. We're going to be adding some baker's twine down here at the bottom. So instead of going right smack in the center, we're going to go center left to right, but we're going to bring it up at the top just a little bit. And I'll tell you what, before I add my baker's twine, I am going to go ahead and add that basic white to the inside, and I'll show you how we're going to stamp that. I find it's easier to go ahead and adhere my card together so that I can see how much of that flap is going to cover up my sentiment. So you can kind of get a little eyeball there. So inside my card, I am going to stamp Love You Always. So like I said, I'm kind of bringing that in a little bit. I can see that my flap will cover it, and we can't say Love You Always without adding a few hearts, right? This, of course, is where I'm going to add my message. Now let's come in with that baker's twine. You know what? When I do this, I tend to just leave it on the spool. It's a little bit easier. And I've got a trick for you for adhering a baker's twine bow. And that tip is a mini glue dot. Watch this tip. I'm going to take this mini glue dot and I'm going to roll it into a little ball. I'm going to put my bow over here on the left side. You could do it on the right side as well. But do you notice how I've got that little dab of glue just right on there? Watch what happens when I go to tie my baker's twine. I'm going to tie it over once. I'm going to pull my thread. See how I'm pulling them up and down? And I'm going to go right over that glue dot, give it a press. Don't worry that this isn't crooked because it can straighten out. But look at this. Now I'm not fighting with my baker's twine when I go to tie it because that little glue dot's going to hold it in place, and that serves two purposes. One, it makes tying this bow so much easier, and it's also going to hold that bow in place so during mailing, while it's being looked at and oohed and awed over, you don't have to worry about that bow slipping, moving around. Let's trim off the excess, and there is our interactive flap card. What do you think? I mean, fast, right? Just 5 minutes and you're going to be able to create this card. I've got another card to share with you, and this one has tips and tricks in it as well, because you can see we did a little creative cutting on this one.
As always, I love to reward you with a free download that goes along with today's video. So if you'd like to recreate the cards, I have all the measurements, I have photos, the supply list of everything that I used. Here you can come back and watch the video if you need a little refresher, and of course a place you can order any of your Stampin' Up! Supplies. I would love to be your Stampin' Up! Demonstrator. Click right there and you'll see the full supply list of everything I used. You'll find that at simplysimplestamping.com, or look down in the YouTube description. I've got a direct link to today's post where you can get your free download.
Our card measurements are exactly the same as our first card. In fact, the only thing that's changing is I'm going to be using Balmy Blue instead of the Knight of Navy. And I changed up my ribbon. I'm going to use a little Real Red. This is from the Real Red Burlap combo. Again, everything else is the same, but tips and tricks, here we go. Just like before, we're going to cut 3/4 of an inch off one side, 3/4 of an inch off the other side. We want to hold on to the longest piece. I'll add my adhesive down the center and adhere down our strip. Remember, it's longer than what we need. Okay, so tip number 1. Do you notice my background for this one? Yeah, I did a little dry embossing on it. I wanted to step it up a little bit. So to do that, I have my basics embossing folder. And here is my tip. I am only going to emboss to here. All right. I don't want to emboss the tab. It's going to kind of make a mess if I do. If you catch a little bit of it, it's fine. And to run this through your Stampin' Cut and Emboss machine, I'm going to take base plate 1. I'm going to put my folder going the other way. So I've got that tab kind of up in the air. And then I'm going to take embossing plate 4. Now I'm going to run this through my machine. And keep in mind, this is totally optional. All right, now let's see what we have. Oh my gosh, it's fabulous, right? Okay, so you remember how we did this, where we just centered that in our other piece of Night of Navy. How about Balmy Blue? But yes, the way we did it on our other card. Center that up, and I'm just going to give myself a little score line here to the left. Trim off a little bit of the excess. You don't have to be straight, don't have to be neat. Let's add our adhesive. And remember, we fold that down, line it up there on the edge of my card like that. Remember, that's going to be hidden. Now, before I add my cardstock here on the inside, I'm actually going to go ahead and stamp it. So I don't want to hit that little edge. So I'm going to take the Just My Type stamp set. This has been a favorite. It's got a lot of really great images in it, but I'm going to take this hello of the keys. I've got a Balmy Blue ink pad, and I'm going to kind of give myself a visual before I get too far. So I'm just going to lay this in here and kind of get an idea of about where that's going to go. You know, we always sometimes just need to see where we're going before we stamp. I am going to ink up the word hello, and I'm going to go ahead and put my Stampin' Pierce mat underneath me since I am using a photopolymer stamp set, and I will stamp my hello, and now I can adhere that to the inside of my card. All right, now we're going to do a little more cutting here on our focal image. So I wanted to have a little fun with this one. And what happened is when I stamped my typewriter, I kind of had a little too much white space. So I cut it off, and look at the sweet little paper clip. So I'm going to show you how to go ahead and cut it in advance so that you can create this little fun image. We're going to take these 2 pieces of cardstock, and with the 4 inches up at the top, I'm going to cut off 3/4 of an inch. That's easy to remember because remember we cut everything else at 3/4. Let's do the same thing with our basic gray. So that would be the 4 1/4 up at the top. And again, we'll cut off 3/4 of an inch. All right, I'm going to bring in that typewriter. And you know, I thought this Balmy Blue was just a fun kind of, just seemed like a retro color. For some reason, I'm remembering my days in typing class and having a light blue electric typewriter. Oh boy, that brings back memories. I don't know, it kind of brings back nightmares. Oh, my teacher just could not stand me in typing class because I'd always look at my hands. I could not. Oh, she put covers on me and everything. All right, so this is the typing paper, and you can see that just goes right across the top. I'm going to come back in with that real red ink pad, and this stamp set has a bigger heart. And we'll stamp that heart right there. And then how about the word hi? I mean, how easy is that for a card? We're just simply in basic gray going to say hi. Now it's time for that adorable paper clip. All right, so what I'm going to do, again, in the basic gray, I'm going to stamp this paper clip all across the bottom. We're going to be covering up this top part here. So we'll add some paper clips. I'm going to add this to the little piece of the basic gray, but you notice it's kind of hanging off. You notice, yep, we have some hanging off there. That's fine. We're going to be able to hide that. I'm now going to come in and adhere my front focal image to this smaller piece of basic gray. And see how we have all this extra space here? That's just perfect because I'm going to put adhesive right there. And we're just going to line these up, and I'm going to let those paper clips just kind of peek out the bottom. All right, I am going to add that to the front of my card. And because this is a heavy embossed piece of cardstock, I want to actually kind of be heavy-handed with my adhesive. Because sometimes when you're working with heavily embossed, 3D embossed cardstock, it can be hard to get cardstock to adhere to it because you don't have as much surface space to attach it to. So I'll give that a little back rub there. And if you recall this card, use this real red ribbon, and this time I'm going to put it across my just that tiny little flap. It worked just great. Remember that trick that we did here with our mini glue dot? We're going to do it again, only this time we really don't need to roll it up, but I am going to put that right there. This one I'm going to tie in a bow, so I want to make sure I give myself plenty of ribbon. Again, I'm not taking it off the spool. It's just a little bit easier to work with. When I pull that ribbon, pull up and down, press it onto the glue dot. Now I don't have to worry about that ribbon slipping on me as I go to tie my bow. We're going to make ourselves a pretty shiny little bow, which goes so nicely with that little red heart. You notice I hold on to the knot in the center as I pull my loops here. And that is my second interactive card. Oh my gosh, these were so easy, right? You gotta love that you can make a card in 5 minutes. And as I said, that embossing on the background, totally optional. What if you maybe stamped a gorgeous background? You could do this and stamp some things on the inside or add another layer of basic white. Friends, you can get so creative with these unique interactive cards. But the best part is we didn't have to bring in a lot of extra cardstock.
If you enjoyed the video today, I would love it if you would give me a little thumbs up on YouTube. I always appreciate that. And if you have not subscribed, why not click the subscribe button, ring the bell, and YouTube will let you know whenever I'm back with another video. I share twice a week here on the channel. I'd love to have you join in. While you're at it, share with your crafty friends. We'd love to have everyone here join us for some fun and interactive stamping. Thank you again. We'll see you guys next time. Bye-bye.